In the late 16th century, a group of more than 100 Englishmen, women, and children vanished from their settlement on Roanoke Island, leaving behind only a single cryptic word carved into a wooden post. Their disappearance has become America's oldest and most haunting unsolved mystery. This is the story of the lost colony of Roanoke. The year is 1587. Under the sponsorship of the famed Sir Walter Raleigh, a new English colony is established on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. It was a bold venture, a foothold in a vast and unknown continent. Among the 117 settlers was Governor John White's own family, including his pregnant daughter, Eleanor Dare. Shortly after their arrival, Eleanor gave birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the very first English child born in the New World. Her birth was a symbol of hope, a promise of a new beginning. But the colony was ill-equipped, and their supplies quickly dwindled. Faced with the harsh realities of the coming winter and strained relations with some local tribes, the colonists persuaded Governor White to return to England to gather more provisions and reinforcement. Peace. He reluctantly agreed, leaving his family and the other settlers behind, promising to return as quickly as possible. He expected to be gone for a matter of months. Instead, fate intervened. Upon his arrival in England, White found the country on the brink of war with Spain. The mighty Spanish Armada was preparing to attack, and every available ship was commandeered for the defense of the realm. All civilian voyages, including White's mission back to Roanoke, were forbidden. For 3 long years, he was trapped, helpless, tormented by thoughts of his colony, his daughter, and his granddaughter, Virginia. Finally, in August of 1590, John White managed to secure passage on a privateering expedition and made his way back to Roanoke. As his ship approached the island, he saw a plume of smoke rising from the woods. His heart filled with hope, believing it to be a signal from his colonists. That evening, as they anchored offshore, they sounded trumpets and sang familiar English songs, hoping for a response. But the only reply was a haunting silence. The next morning, White and his men went ashore. What they found was not a thriving settlement, but an eerie, deserted outpost. The houses had been carefully dismantled, not violently torn down. The defensive palisades surrounding the settlement was still standing, but the area within was empty. There were no signs of a battle, no bodies, no graves. It was as if the 117 colonists had simply vanished into thin air. Then they found the only clues left behind. Carved into a post at the entrance to the fort was a single word, in all capital letters, Croatoan. On a nearby tree, they found the letters Crow. White immediately recognized the significance. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, today known as Hatteras Island, and the name of the friendly Native American tribe that inhabited it. Before he had left, White and the colonists had agreed on a secret token. If they had to move, they would carve their destination into a tree or post. If they were in distress, they were to carve a Maltese cross above the name. There was no cross. This suggested the colonists had left voluntarily, moving to Croatoan Island with their native allies. John White was desperate to sail the 50 miles south to Croatoan to find his family, but a great storm was brewing. The ship's captain, anxious about the approaching hurricane season and eager to continue his profitable privateering, refused to risk his vessel. His anchors were lost, his crew was weary, and he forced the expedition to abandon the search. Heartbroken, John White was forced to sail back to England, never to see America or his family again. He would die years later, never knowing the true fate. So what happened to the settlers of Roanoke? For over 400 years, historians, archaeologists, and amateur sleuths have grappled with this question, leading to several compelling theories. The most widely accepted theory is that the colonists did exactly what the clue suggested. They moved to Croatoan Island. The Croatoan people were known to be friendly with the English. It's plausible, even likely, that the settlers, facing starvation and abandonment, chose to integrate with the tribe. They may have assimilated over time, intermarrying and adopting the local culture. Later explorers in the 17th and 18th centuries reported encountering Native Americans along the Carolina coast with gray eyes and lighter hair who claimed to have ancestors who could talk in a book. These stories, passed down through generations, seem to support the idea of assimilation. The Croatoan people themselves, now recognized as the Lumbee tribe, have a rich oral history that speaks of their connection to the Roanoke settlers. However, another, darker possibility exists: an attack. While the Croatoan were friendly, other tribes in the region were not. The colonists had a history of conflict, and it's possible they were wiped out by a hostile tribe. The lack of bodies or signs of a struggle at the fort could mean the attack happened after they relocated or that the attackers cleared the site. The Spanish also had a presence in Florida and viewed the English colony as a threat to their claims in the New World. A Spanish raid to eliminate the fledgling English settlement is not out of the question, though Spanish records from the period contain no mention of such an attack. A third theory suggests a catastrophic attempt to leave. Perhaps the colonists, tired of waiting for whites' return, attempted to sail back to England in a pinnace small boat left with them. Such a vessel would have been no match for the treacherous waters of the Atlantic, and they could have been lost at sea in a storm, leaving no trace. Alternatively, they may have attempted to move the entire colony to a new location on the mainland, perhaps up the Chesapeake Bay as was their original plan. A new settlement, isolated and without support, could have easily succumbed to disease, famine, or conflict, disappearing without a historical record. For centuries, these were just theories, with little physical evidence to support them. But in recent decades, archaeology has begun to shed new light on the mystery. In the 1930s, a series of inscribed stones, known as the Dare Stones, were discovered. One, allegedly written by Eleanor Dare, told a tragic story of death from sickness and attack, however. Nearly all of these stones have since been dismissed by experts as elaborate forgeries, muddying the waters rather than clarifying them, while promising discoveries have emerged from modern archaeological work. In an area inland from Roanoke Island, dubbed Site X, archaeologists have unearthed a trove of 16th century English artifacts mixed with Native American pottery. These findings suggest that at least a small group of settlers may have moved inland, away from the coast, and lived among a native community. More recently, in 2020, archaeologists excavating on Hatteras Island, the historic Croatoan, found more fragments of English pottery from the correct time period, directly linking the settlers to the very place the carved post indicated. This evidence strongly bolsters the assimilation theory, suggesting the colonists split into at least two groups, with some moving inland and others to Croatoan Island to survive. Despite these tantalizing clues, the full story remains elusive. We have fragments of evidence, scattered pieces of a puzzle with most of its parts missing. Did the colonists of Roanoke blend peacefully into a new culture, their English bloodline merging with that of the first peoples of America? Were they victims of a brutal attack, the settlement erased from the landscape? Or did they meet their end against the unforgiving forces of nature, lost in the vast wilderness or the stormy sea? We still do not know for sure. No definitive proof has ever been found. No graves, no letters, no confirmed remains. The fate of the 117 souls, including the infant Virginia Dare, is a ghost story written into the first pages of American history. It is a mystery that has endured for more than centuries, a haunting reminder of the perils and promises of the New World, and a testament to the fact that some secrets may be lost to time forever.